welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Tuesday, December 17th, 2013. Yesterday we reported that Aon Benfield, the world's largest reinsurance broker, is testing the softness of the property catastrophe market by proposing to reinsurers that some of the contract terms be changed. Of course, reinsurers have seen their premium prices drop and are eager for business. And being the biggest broker selling the business, Aon Benfield apparently thought that they had leverage. They may in fact have had leverage. Some reports are indicating that 7 of the world's largest reinsurers have agreed. However, they are getting some pushback. According to sources, Insurance Insider is reporting that Hanover Re, Renaissance Re, and Markel have declined the approach. Others that were not approached, meaning they're not in the so-called magic circle of the 10 or 11 biggest reinsurers, are understood to have strongly voiced their opposition. This is an ongoing story, and we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, in another ongoing story, that of Royal Sun Alliance, the UK's biggest commercial general insurer, Standard & Poor's has now jumped on into the pile-up, and they have lowered the company's and its core subsidiaries' ratings down to A- from A. They also lowered some of the strategically important subsidiaries down to BBB+ from A-. Standard & Poor's said that the departure of CEO Simon Lee, quote, raises questions about the company's capacity to execute plans to strengthen capital and earnings. I'm not so sure about that, and I still continue to think that RSA is a buy. There was a massive 6.2 earthquake in New Zealand in the southern island earlier today. It was measured, as I mentioned, at 6.2. It struck about 125 kilometers west of the city of Tutupair. According to local reports, about 170 people felt the earthquake. There were no tsunami alerts issued, nor were there any injuries reported. Damage reports are sketchy. The southern island of New Zealand is a little bit isolated. According to the New Zealand seismic authorities, more tremors are expected in the area. The deadly earthquakes in 2010 and 2011 in New Zealand, according to geologists, have caused part of the Earth's crust to weaken, especially in that area. The Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych is in Russia right now, in Moscow, meeting with Vladimir Putin. He's looking for a loan, and he's looking for a reduction on the price of Russian gas. He's got a funding gap of about $17 billion for next year. Of course, he had been lined up to bring the Ukraine into the European Union, but did a 180-degree turn and began to indicate he was going to sign up with Moscow instead. Has prompted a huge public protest in Kiev, joined yesterday by U.S. Senator John McCain. Mr. Yanukovych has also imprisoned the opposition leader, which is not endearing himself to either the EU or to the protesters. Willis is reporting that unprecedented levels of competition during the key November to December airline insurance renewal period have led to the softest market conditions for a generation. Major airlines with a good safety record have benefited from price decreases of up to 20%. This is despite high single-digit growth in the values of their fleet. There's a big wildfire burning in California today in the Big Sur area. It's destroyed at least 15 homes, including that of the fire chief, unfortunately. It's completely uncontained. It's caused evacuations of about 100 people. It's a very high-priced residential area. And in Mexico City, hundreds of people were evacuated yesterday after an explosion and a fire was caused by thieves trying to tap into a natural gas pipeline owned by the state oil and gas company PEMEX. It's unknown why the explosion occurred. Presumably the thieves were smart enough not to be smoking cigarettes at the time. The Mexican authorities in the suburbs of Mexico City evacuated about 800 people in about a half-mile radius around the explosion. And the province of Newfoundland in Canada, where you fly over the last bit of land as you're heading east if you're flying to London, made the news today. They've sunk about $20 million into a Soviet-era car ferry that they purchased in the 1990s from the government of Estonia. And they ended up having to sell the ferry for rust salvage for about $76,000. The government of Newfoundland had purchased the ferry called the MV Nonia. It's about 43 meters long. It takes about 24 cars. It had been picked up from the Soviet bloc as the Soviet Empire began to crumble. It was built in 1986 in Latvia, and it was pretty prone to errors and difficulties when it was working for the Newfoundland government. The steering gave out in 2007. 3 years later, an onboard fire took out the ship's electrical system, leaving it adrift. And then it needed an emergency refit after sustaining ice damage. It also then failed Canadian transport inspectors who looked at it in dry dock and said that it needed $9 million more of repair. It was sold for $76,000 to a company in Newfoundland called Miller Shipping. Our shipping CEO said that a lot of the components on the ferry just needed to be replaced. They were built on obsolete Soviet technology. And the problem is that the repair manual was written in very technical Russian, so it wasn't like you could get somebody from the university to translate it. However, the head of Miller Shipping said it does have its strengths. He said that it has an unusually strong car deck, which was installed so that it could perform double duty as a Red Army tank transport. The head of Miller said, "That's why I like it as a work platform. It's very stable and strong." Well, you can say what you want about Soviet technology, but it always did have two purposes. The military was always there. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.